He did not leave his faith because someone convinced him to. He left because he asked questions that his religion could not answer, and what he found on the other side of those questions nearly destroyed him before it saved him. By October of a particular year, he was $40,000 in debt, suicidal, alone, and crying out to the only God he had ever known. What happened the next morning, in 3 simple words, changed the entire direction of his life. Stay until the very end, because the moment those words arrived is the moment the story becomes impossible to explain away. Drop a comment right now and tell me where in the world you are watching from. We are building a family across every nation, and we will pray for each other without stopping. This is a true story. No names will be used anywhere in this narration. This choice was made carefully, out of genuine concern for the personal safety and privacy of the individual involved and those connected to this account. Everything else you are about to read happened exactly as described. I was born into a Muslim family in the mid-1980s, a male child raised in a household where Islam was not practiced casually. It was the structure of everything. The prayers, the fasting, the language we use to describe the world, the way we understood right and wrong, all of it flowed from one source. I did not question it as a child, because children rarely question the water they swim in. It is simply the element they exist inside. By the time I was in my late teens, I had become the kind of young Muslim man who argued with Christians. I was not aggressive about it in a violent sense, but I was confident. I had studied enough to feel armed. I believed I understood their book better than most of them did. I would challenge their beliefs with questions I was certain they could not answer. I was proud of this. I wore it like a badge. But something was happening underneath the confidence that I did not have words for yet, a quiet searching that my arguments could not silence. I told myself that if Islam was the truth, it should be able to survive any question I threw at it. So I started throwing questions. Serious ones. The kind that do not disappear when someone tells you the answer requires more context. What came back from those questions were not satisfying answers. What came back were contradictions, explanations that shifted depending on who was giving them, and a recurring instruction to simply trust without pressing further. That instruction, in a person built for questions, is like telling a river to stop moving. I went deeper, not casually but obsessively. I spent hours every single night for years studying Islamic and Christian apologetics side by side. I was not trying to leave Islam. I genuinely wanted it to win the argument. I wanted to come out the other side with my faith intact and strengthened. I pushed into the historical evidence, into the records of ancient scholars, into the documents that existed outside of religious tradition entirely. The crucifixion stopped me completely. The historical reality of it is not a matter of Christian opinion. Secular historians, atheist academics, scholars with no religious motivation confirm it across centuries of independent documentation. It happened. The Quran said it did not. That single contradiction, sitting at the center of everything, was not something I could explain away. I tried. I tried for a long time. It would not move. Then I looked at the life of the Prophet of Islam, not through the filter of what I had been taught to believe about him, but through the primary sources. What I found there I will not detail fully, but the contrast with the life of Jesus was not subtle. Jesus healed people. He forgave enemies. He died for people who hated him. He knew exactly where he was going, and he went there willingly. The difference was not merely theological. It was the difference between two entirely different kinds of person. By the time I was 26, I knew in a part of myself that is honest without permission that Jesus was who he claimed to be. That knowing did not arrive gently. It landed like a weight I had not agreed to carry, and it changed everything immediately. I want to tell you what that cost me, because this is the part that people do not talk about enough. My father became aggressive in a way I had not seen before. He did not simply disagree with me. He was enraged in a specific way that a man becomes enraged when something he loves has been, in his understanding, desecrated. He showed me through his behavior that in his eyes I had not changed my beliefs. I had betrayed the family, the culture, the blood, and the God he had spent his whole life serving. Every conversation with him became a confrontation. The home I had grown up in became a place I could barely breathe inside. My mother's response was different, and in some ways harder to witness. She wept, not once or twice, but consistently. Every time she saw the cross I wore around my neck, she showed me through those tears that she was not angry. She was heartbroken. She believed with everything in her that I was heading toward destruction, and she could not stop it. Watching your mother grieve you while you are still alive is a specific kind of pain that does not have a clean name. My brother and sister withdrew. They did not create scenes. They simply stopped treating me as someone whose choices deserved to be taken seriously. I became, in the family structure, a problem to be managed rather than a person to be known. Outside the family, it was worse in different ways. The community I had grown up inside, the friends I had known since childhood, the mentors who had shaped how I understood the world, they all receded. Some of them left quickly. Some of them tried for a while before the distance became permanent. By the end of that first year after my conversion, I was standing in a space that felt completely empty. Every relationship that had previously defined who I was had either ended or been so damaged that it no longer functioned the way it once had. I want you to sit with that for a moment before I continue. Imagine removing every person who has ever known your name from your daily life. Imagine waking up and having no one to call. Imagine walking through your own city feeling like a stranger because every familiar face now looks at you differently. That was my life, and I had chosen it. But choosing something does not make the weight of it easier to carry. I did not handle it well. I found ways to stop feeling what I was feeling. Substances that created distance between me and the pain. Alcohol, cocaine, other things. I moved through a season of parties and numbness and behavior that I am not proud of. I had left Islam, but I had not yet let anything replace what I had lost. I was spiritually homeless, intellectually convinced of something I had not yet allowed to reach my heart in a way that could actually change me. I knew the truth in my mind. I had not surrendered to it in my life. By October 2020, the collapse was complete. I had left a stable career in cybersecurity to build something of my own. The ambition was real, but the timing and the foundation were wrong. I accumulated $40,000 in debt that I could not manage. The calls from banks started at 8 in the morning and ran until 8 at night without stopping. Every ring of my phone was another reminder of how far I had fallen. I was taking stimulants just to stay awake through the night, so I could attempt some kind of productive work and avoid the calls during daylight hours. I was not sleeping properly. I was not eating properly. I was not functioning as a human being in any meaningful sense. I was suicidal. I want to say that clearly because softening it would dishonor the truth of where I was. I did not want to be alive. The pain of the isolation, the financial collapse, the shame of the choices I had made since leaving Islam, the loss of my family, all of it had accumulated into something I did not believe I could survive. In that room, in that darkness, I prayed. And the remarkable thing, the thing I still cannot fully explain, is that I did not pray to Jesus. I prayed to Allah. I cried out to the God of my childhood in the language of my oldest desperation and told him I could not continue. I asked for help with no conditions and no theology and nothing left to offer. The next morning, something happened. 3 words arrived in my mind in a way that did not feel like thought. They felt like instruction from outside myself. Get up and go. That was all. No explanation. No destination specified. Just a command to rise and move. The clarity of it cut through everything that had been clouding me for months. I knew, in the way you know something that bypasses argument, that those words had not come from me. I got up. Something had shifted in my chest. A warmth that had not been there the night before. A quiet certainty that I was not alone, that something that knew me and loved me was present in that room with me. I did not have a language for it yet, but I understand now that it was Jesus. It was the one I had been convinced of intellectually, but had not yet surrendered to personally. He met me in the worst moment of my life, not after I cleaned myself up, not after I had earned it, but in the exact middle of the wreckage. Within 3 months of that morning, my financial situation had completely reversed. The agency I launched succeeded in ways I could not have engineered. The $40,000 was gone. The phone stopped ringing with threats and started ringing with opportunities. I do not present this as a prosperity formula. I present it as evidence of what happens when a life that has been running on its own broken engine finally submits to something stronger. But the material recovery was not the most important thing. The most important thing was the community that came. Slowly. Then all at once, people appeared in my life who knew who I was becoming rather than who I had been. Brothers and sisters in faith who showed me through their consistency and their love that the family I had lost was being replaced by something that could not be taken by religion or culture or blood loyalty. They showed me that belonging is not earned through birth. It is given by God. The persecution I endured was real, and it is ongoing in the quieter ways that family rejection always continues. My father still struggles. My mother still grieves in her own way. Those wounds do not close quickly, but I am not alone in them anymore. And that changes everything about what is survivable. To every believer reading or watching this, I ask you to pray with persistence of those who are walking through specific loneliness of leaving a faith community, especially those who have left Islam and are standing in that empty space between what they have lost and what they have not yet found. Your prayers matter more than you know. If you are in that place right now, if you are questioning, searching, or simply exhausted by the way of your own life, the door is open. Tell God honestly where you are. Tell him you believe Jesus is who he said he was. Ask him to come in and make something new out of what remains. He will. He has never failed anyone who came to him with nothing left to offer. Share this story. Like this video. Subscribe and stay with us because there is more coming. And leave a comment telling me where in the world you are watching from. We are praying for you right now.